Hey everybody, I'm Paul from Canadian Woodworks and Legacy Lumber, and welcome back to another Tool Tuesday. This one's a pretty exciting one, at least it is for me. We don't use this machine too often. It's a 5-head molding machine. So let's get right into it. What we have here is a Weinig Profit 26 Super. What does all that mean? This means it's a 5-head molding machine. One side you put in rough lumber, out the other side you're going to have your finished shiplap or tongue and groove, or even just dressed 4 sides, crown molding. It'll do all sorts of stuff. Rough lumber in one, boom, all 4 sides completely done on the way out. For this here, we're going to be creating our Shou Sugi Ban shiplap siding. So here's the actual profile that we're going with. So it's going to shiplap over top of each other and have a 1/2 inch reveal. We have a slight angle on both those shoulders. That way this could be used as a vertical siding. This is actually horizontal. Or it could also be used as a vertical siding, which is actually more common. But it could be used either way. The reason we want this angled edge is that when water comes in here, we don't want it to kind of sit here or even draw backwards. We want it to hit that angle and come off of the face of the timber. We're going to be using larch. So you've already seen us sawmill it, dry it, and finally we're going to be putting it through our molding machine. So we're going to hit all the sides, this side, that side. We hit the bottom, we put in 2 stress relieving grooves, and we get the top nice and smooth, also ready for burning. We're putting through 1 inch thick lumber, and we're going to end up with about 5/8 of an inch thick siding. So a piece of wood has 4 sides, although this molding machine actually has 5 heads. The reason being, the very first head will do a jointing operation. So it's a spiral head. We can do a maximum width of 9 1/4 inches. So the first head is a jointing head. Not only does it do the bottom side of the board, but it has a nicker on the side of the head as well that creates a 90-degree angle. And then that 90-degree angle rides against a much shorter fence that's after the longer fence to pass it through the first side head, nice and square and nice and straight. It then goes through the side head, and depending what blade you have on there, you're going to get the shape that you want. It then goes through the other side head right after it, which is powered by the same motor. So when I turn the one head, you can see they both actually turn. From there, we do have a top head. And for this situation, we're going to be using the jointing head to clean the bottom fully, and this top head will give us a final thickness. Also spiral head, which is real nice. The finish is fantastic, and it is nice and quiet. The loudest knife on the entire machine is actually our back knife, because we do have a standard straight edge knife with 2 nickers. So we're going to put 2 stress relieving grooves into the back side of the siding. Now we won't use the actual full knife and take a cut with the full knife. We're just going to be grazing those nickers. So here we're at our main control panel. We can adjust the speed of the lumber going through by turning this knob. The motors are all get turned on here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we have this is the rollers. This is the button that turns the in-feed rollers on that pulls the wood through. Then you can turn on the bottom head, the top head, both side heads, and then the bottom head again, which is the final head. You can manually operate the in-feed and out-feed rollers depending which way you push these arrows. And then those rollers are pressured down, spring loaded onto the board. You can adjust the height of those rollers. All right, so we got the blades changed out, but the heads are not to the right height. And this head here will adjust widthwise. That head also adjusts widthwise. So what I do is I just cut a sample of the siding that we're going to be creating, and I use it to help me set up the knives. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. I set up the far side first usually, and I can do that just by holding this against the fence and lining it up to where the knife is. I can see I got to raise this head close to 1/2 inch. And of course, if you guys didn't already know, I buy almost all of my tools used, auction, online classifieds. This is another gem that I found. It was only about 1/2 hour away from me, and we picked it up for like pennies on the dollar, basically. I paid $10,000 for this machine. From my understanding, it's in the range of $60,000 to $80,000 brand new. Could be more, it could be a little less, but it's around that figure. So really, really huge savings to us. It's a 2005 unit. Unfortunately, when you buy things at a discount like that, you're either going to be missing tools or wrenches. And a lot of these handles were kind of funny, and they weren't, they were either broken or missing or really needed to get cleaned up a lot. We did hire in a gentleman that goes around and fixes these machines for, not a millwright, but he's like the technical representative for Weinig. And he comes around and takes a look at your machine and tells you what you need, basically, and even how to fix it. They can fix it for you, or he can instruct you on how to do it. It was very informative. He looked over the machine, and when I first told him, I bought it used, I got it for this price, he was a little bit like, ooh, I don't know. But when he came, he actually said, you know what, you got a really, really good machine. There's not too much wrong with it, which is pretty sweet. But we don't have handles for everything, so I kind of have one handle here, and this is the handle here that's going to actually go on and adjust. What are these? These are the locks for the heads. So before I can adjust the height of the head up or down, in and out, I need to unlock it, just like that. I forget which one it always is, so I also unlock this one. But I think I need both of those. I'm going to have to adjust everything, so I might as well come in here and just kind of give everything a little unlock. Now, one thing this machine has is these very, very accurate dial gauges mounted to all the adjustments. This is one step here where they don't all work correctly, or they're set up properly, or I don't even understand how to use them. So this is where maybe in a normal shop, you'd be able to change the knives, or you'd have these knives built into these heads, and you knew you could adjust these to certain numbers, and you're all set up. So, and you're very, very quick. But because I don't use this machine very often, we switch blades out in the heads. These don't necessarily work exactly. I use a dummy piece of wood to get it all set up. Then I run some wood through. I'm going to check the setup and then tweak it from there a little bit. All right, we have our first side head set up. Our second side head is set up. After the second side, it has an adjustable fence that you want to set it to, not be crazy pressure on the wood, but just slightly off. It's just going to act as a bit of a guide. So you can see how I can just slide it in and out manually here. I'm just going to touch it to the piece of wood, and I'm going to bring it back a little bit and then lock it down. This is actually spring loaded here. See that? So we want that to have the appropriate pressure as well, pushing down on the rough lumber. So I need to actually adjust this height using rough lumber. And then at the very end of it here, it has another shoe. See this piece of green, I guess this is HDPE. It's very slippery kind of stuff. This is also adjustable, and this is actually what's going to hold down the board once it's to final thickness over top of this blade. So this will need to get set also with the final thickness board. So we talked about the first head being a jointing head, and just like any jointer, the table in front of the blade is adjustable up or down. So we have a knob right here that we can loosen, and you can see this whole table is going to go up and down. So you can take 0 millimeters all the way to 10 millimeters in thickness. I believe we're typically taking about 3 millimeters. That's about where I set it. And then I mentioned it has that nicker blade on the side of the blade to give us a 90-degree angle from the bottom to the edge, just the 1/4 inch. So this fence is also adjustable on how much you want to take off the side. So you have this here, you can go all the way from 0 to 10. Okay, with the machine fully set up, we're going to give a quick walkthrough of each setup that we've done. We've lowered the jointing table to 3 millimeters, so we're going to try that first. We've adjusted our width jointing head to 4 millimeters, so we're going to try that first. Then we've gone ahead and we've set our height as well as the width of our first side cutter. We've adjusted the height as well as the width of the second side cutter. And then just before the side cutter is a spring-loaded fence. You can see here. So this has an adjustment on it, as well as just before that, we can see this wheel that spins. This is also spring-loaded. So both of these are going to help hold the wood that way against the solid fence. Then we have a shoe, which is also spring-loaded, which is going to hold down the lumber because it's going to pass through the head that is going to do the final thickness. Then we have another shoe, which is also spring-loaded, which holds the wood down against this bottom head, which is just going to give us the 2 relief grooves in the bottom side. And then finally, we have nice urethane rollers because we don't want to damage our face of wood when it's coming out of the machine. So we're gonna throw the guards back on. We're gonna throw a test piece through and see how we did. What I end up doing is if it runs through the machine perfectly, we will then cut it and then join it up and see how it is for heights. Typically, I do have to adjust the side heads a little bit. All right, let's fire up our dust collection. We've got 5,000 CFM. This bad boy does require air pressure. Check. All right, we're gonna throw a test piece through. We're gonna leave the guard off so we can see what's going on in the machine. I'm gonna fire up the rollers first. And now I'm gonna turn on each individual motor. We're gonna start with the bottom head. Top head. Side heads. And finally the other bottom head.